revitalizing time to be a creative. Hi everyone, I'm Laurie Fagen and welcome to AZ Creates, a web series about the many creative people right here in Arizona. It's spring and we are revitalizing our art, we're giving new life to our writing, and maybe bringing some fresh energy into some new creative projects. So in today's Creative Connections segment, we will introduce you to fine art photographer Dale Kesel of Phoenix. His body of work includes some spectacular Southwest landscape images. And in What Are You Reading?, you'll meet best-selling author Barby Ingle about her books on pain. We'll feature the Chandler-Tullamore Sister Cities nonprofit and its Young Artist and Authors Showcase. We'll have a fresh batch of arts events for you from around the state, and we'll close with a quote about how spring revitalizes us. That's all straight ahead. Don't go away. AZ Creates is sponsored by the Times Media Group, a digital and print media company that operates in the Phoenix and Tucson metro markets. It serves a wide variety of demographic audiences and communities with more than 1.1 million printed copies and millions of online readers each month. Publications include the Santan Sun News, Chandler Arizonan, Gilbert Sun News, Mesa Tribune, Scottsdale Progress, and many more. For details, visit Times Publications at timespublications.com. Welcome back. Our Creative Connections segment artist today is fine art photographer Dale Kesel of Phoenix. He has shot some breathtaking images of Southwest landscapes as well as a thought-provoking Western history series. Welcome to AZ Creates, Dale.
It's good to be here with you, Laurie.
We will look at some of your beautiful photographs in just a moment, but you started off working in advertising agencies after you got your degree in communications. Tell us a little bit about the corporate world and then your journey to start your very first photography business.
Well, I started in 1971 working for J. Walter Thompson in Detroit. The car industry was going south quickly, and so I moved to New York and worked there for the next 18 years. I always had an interest in photography, but that wasn't my specialty. I did the marketing and positioning of clients' products and services and worked with the creative people to develop the advertising, whether it be television commercials, radio, magazines, or newspapers. And I did that for 20 years before deciding that I really wanted to pursue my passion for photography.
And JWT, oh my, that's the big guns for sure. So you started your first company as Spectrum Photography, correct? Tell us a little bit about what that was initially.
Yeah, I studied while I was in New York what the best locations were in terms of growth. And Phoenix was one of them. Minneapolis was another. Seattle was another. I located the studio here because I was familiar with the area. My mother had a winter home out here for years, and we would come out from New York in the middle of winter and enjoy the sun and the warmth. So I got exposure to Arizona, and she started sending me Arizona highways to New York. And so the more I pondered where I wanted to relocate, when I combined it with the information about the growth that was going on here, there was no choice but to go to Phoenix. The Southwest has such beauty that, and the cold of the other two locations was not appealing to me at all.
And I could see how Arizona Highways magazine would certainly appeal to you directly too. So tell us about Spectrum Photography. What did you do there?
I set up a studio, and our primary business was portraiture both family and business portraits. And it evolved into commercial photography, photographing executives, photographing products that clients were promoting by various means. Eventually, there was a lot of it done over the internet, but initially it was through traditional media. And so I spent most of my time in the studio and hired people to deal with the customers out front. So I've always been behind the camera since I got into the business.
And then after Spectrum, you kind of made the shift to fine art photography, which is a completely, really different emphasis from what the original company. What was your thought process in making that kind of a change?
Well, my original hope when I moved out here was to spend a lot more time pursuing the passion that I had for fine art photography. You know, it started with landscapes because of what's here present in Arizona, that is the history, you know, the mining business and so forth. I started to do other locations other than obvious ones like the Grand Canyon or Page and Lake Powell and northern New Mexico, Death Valley in California.
Something you said about your photography that comes from a quote, desire to communicate, to add new dimension to people's lives, to stimulate thought, and to fire emotions from those who view it. So as we dive into your work, I think it'll be clear to everybody about some of the emotions that you evoke and with these stories that you tell. So Dale, so let's start off with this amazing shot of Cape Royal sunset. Tell us about where you were and how did you take this photo?
This is from the north rim of the Grand Canyon, which is, you know, very lightly traveled. You know, the south rim is where most of the traffic goes because it's closer to Phoenix and other, you know, heavily populated areas like Flagstaff. So to get there, you have to go up toward Page, almost all the way to Page, and then go into the north rim above the canyon. And Cape Royal is a point of view, one of the key points of view that's available to you from the north rim. And I particularly chose this time of year, which was the first part of September, because it was the end of the monsoon season. And I was looking to get up there when there were, you know, heavy clouds and dramatic skies. And so I went up there, and the first day it was clear blue, you know, not very interesting at all. This was a sunset shot. The next day the clouds rolled in, it rained for a while, and then it backed off in the afternoon. So this particular point of view is always best at the end of the day, right before sunset. So I was out there with my camera on a tripod waiting for the light to be right. And as the sun was going down, it created that band of reddish orange across the horizon. And the result was that as the sun went down, the clouds got darker and darker, and then it began to light up the rock formation in the foreground. I had a window of maybe 10 minutes to take the shot, and I was using what they call a neutral density filter, which allowed me to slow down the shutter speed so I could leave it open longer. And so I only had a chance to take about 10 photographs during that 10-minute period. And so I shot through the sunset until the sun was no longer visible. It's out of the picture anyway, it's to the right. And coming from the right, it strikes that large rock formation in the foreground and lit it up beautifully with the color of the setting sun. And so 10 minutes after waiting, 2 days to get the right light, I had a 10-minute window to take the shot. And
well, it was certainly worth it, that's for sure.
Even though it has fewer viewpoints, they're much more interesting because the structure down in the canyon is not as complicated as it is from the south rim. It's not as busy. So it leads to better or more powerful, more interesting photographs, which goes back to, what I shoot for, which is to capture those moments that fire emotions in the people that view it.
That's right. Oh, and you certainly did, for sure. So, Dale, as part of your historic Western series, here's a shot. It's called Table, Cup, and Chair. Explain about this photo and about your whole series.
The series was created, it was actually sparked by my 12 to 20 visits to this location, which is called Vulture Mine. It's near Wickenburg, and it's a gold mine that was very active before the World War II. It opened up in the early 1900s and was shut down just as World War II started because they needed the manpower for the war. The particular shot was taken in what's called the cook's quarters. So it's in a building that had a kitchen where they served literally 400 people per day. And they were most of them were living in tents on the grounds. And what inspired me is I'd been there several other times. I'd looked at that room. I was shooting between studs, that were part of the construction because the interior wall, had long since been torn down or deteriorated. And when I looked at the room, what I imagined was what it was like when the government came in and closed down the mine. And I could imagine the cook who lived in those quarters having his last cup of coffee before he left the site. And so I moved the table that was in the room to the position that it's in the photograph, connecting with the corner of the window. I brought a chair out of the closet and cocked it open as though he had just gotten up out of the chair after finishing his coffee. And the cup actually came from the kitchen. I had to go in and, get that cup. And because the handle was broken off, I didn't want that to show. So I rotated the cup so that all you had was that cylindrical white form sitting on the top of the table. And it was lit by, there was an open window, or not open, but there was a window that's not in the photograph that's to my right. And it's throwing light in, directional light from the right toward the left. And it lit up the cup and created that three-dimensional look. And then you can see the cast shadows going across the floor from the legs of the table. So it took me 2 hours to clean the room up and move the bed out of the way, which was in the picture. It had mouse droppings all over it. It was a mess. And another half hour to create the composition and then shoot it. And I shot it on film. So I wasn't even sure that I had the exposure right. So I bracketed several brackets, meaning, longer exposures to make sure that somewhere in the series that I shot, I would have the proper exposure.
And that was all natural lighting, though, correct?
All natural lighting at, roughly 9 o'clock in the morning when the sun was above the window, so it wasn't coming in directly, but there was bright enough light that it lit up the interior of the room the way you see it there.
Beautiful. Just a really, really lovely shot. And again, does tell quite the story of that cook's last cup of coffee, perhaps. Now, of course, Arizona has many wild horses, and you have quite a story to tell about this next image we're going to show called Wild Mustangs. How did you get this shot?
Well, it's a part of a whole series of 11 photographs. And a friend of mine called me one day and said that he saw these wild Mustangs running on the Gila Reservation when he was up in his ultralight plane, which basically is a plane that has the engine and the prop behind the pilot and passenger, if there is a passenger. And the wings are above your head and they're tied to the body of the plane. There is no cockpit. You ride it like you're riding on a Harley. With the passenger seat is elevated about 6 inches above the pilot's seat. So he's, flying the plane and I'm shooting from behind him. So he took me up. We went over the reservation, found the horses around a watering hole. They heard the plane and they began to run off in different directions. The pilot followed them. Sometimes he would come in very low. One time we hit the tops of the Palo Verde trees with the wheels of the plane, and we had to put the plane down in the desert to pull all the brush out. But the particular shot that you're showing is one that was shot with a 200 millimeter lens, and I had to use an extremely fast shutter speed because of the movement of both the plane and the wild Mustangs in order to stop them. And you can see from the image that they're kicking up dust, from the floor of the desert, and it's shrouding their hoofs, and the ones off in the distance at the top, begin to go out of sight just because of all the cloud of dust that's created by them running through. So we did this for 3.5 hours, and I was actually glad that he had to put it down out in the desert because my back was killing me, rotating from side to side and trying to capture these images. And I shot 350 images that day, out of which I selected 11 for this collection. And
goodness,
the one that you're showing is the one that's been the best, the one I've shown the most often, but it's also been the most popular in terms of clients purchasing it.
Well, I can see why that dust just really creates, such a spectacular image there. Very interesting. Now, Dale, in your artist statement, you say that imagination and patience are the key virtues from which your photography images spring. A lot of people with cell phones think they can just run out and snap a quick photo. Talk a little bit about some of the patience required to get just the right lighting, just the right shot.
Yeah, lighting is virtually everything when it comes to photography, and most people think that they can go out through the middle of the day and get great images, and you just can't. You need directional lighting, and that comes at the very beginning of the day and the very end of the day. In photographers' language, they call it the sweet hour at the end of the day. And in the morning, you have to shrink that sweet hour to about a half an hour, if that. So when the sun comes up, it gets bright really fast. When the sun goes down, you have a lot longer period when the light could be really right. So patience has a lot to do with doing some planning in terms of the weather, but also knowing that you may have to sit around through the middle of the day because you're not going to be able to get anything that's spectacular in terms of lighting. You have to.
And something may just happen, and you may not get the shot. After all, right? After all that planning.
That's right, and that's happened to me many, many times. Particularly when you're depending on outdoor light, it can be. Especially with Arizona, you don't get the clouds that you do in other parts of the country. And when you have a dead blue sky, you might as well crop the sky out because it's not very interesting.
Not quite as interesting. True. And the golden hour also referred to, right? The sweet hour,
Yes.
or the golden hour at the sunset time, right?
Yeah.
You've shown your work in a number of galleries, including the former Art on Boston Gallery, and you are now a member of the Mesa Art Center Artist Cooperative Gallery in Mesa. How has that experience been for you so far?
It's been very rewarding. There's between 40 and 50 artists at any given time whose work is on display. The only thing that's been a little bit frustrating is that the space available is limited, and so the size of the photos that I can show there, it maxes out at about 20 by 30. So large photographs that I've shown in other venues like Chandler Center for the Arts, it's not possible to show those. But one of the things that's been most rewarding is working and being a part of a cooperative group of artists in a variety of media. And so when you go in to the gallery, it's not just photography and paintings on display, but you also have ceramic artists, metal artists, glass blowing.
Jewelry, I know.
Jewelry, yes.
Right.
And so there's probably at least a dozen different mediums represented, plus variety of styles, depending on the particular artist. The other thing about it is, as a co-op, we're part of the Mesa Art Center Foundation, which is a nonprofit. So the commission that is paid or kept by the Mesa Art Center Foundation goes back into the community to support the arts. And that's, in my experience anyway, it's unique. Because what I want to do as an artist is encourage others, to follow that path, regardless of what their medium of choice is. And this gives them exposure they wouldn't otherwise get
Absolutely.
to the arts.
Right. Yeah, and that is a great way that they do provide and give back to the community. It's been a challenging time, of course, for artists during the pandemic. I know the workshops that you have led in the past have been impacted. Overall, how has the pandemic affected your photography?
Well, it virtually ground to a halt during the pandemic, and I've gone up only twice in the last 13 months. And, being holed up, finally I've gotten my vaccines. So I'm heading off to Florida next week for a month. But the only place I've been able to go is the north rim of the Grand Canyon. And that was where that shot was taken in September during the monsoon. And other than that, local places like up along the Salt River. There's wild mustangs that range up in that area as well. And there's some interesting rock formations along the Salt River. But it's been frustrating for me. I look forward to being able to get out again. And I anticipate that by the end of the summer, during the monsoon season again, I'll be able to organize workshops, and I'll be looking to do that over the course of the summer.
Good. Well, and at least that Cape Sunset came from the pandemic. So you had one great shot that came out of that, for sure. But let's talk a little bit more about these workshops, because they are unlike a lot of other ones, I think. Tell us what a typical session might look back when you can start doing them again, and talk about some of the fabulous places that you take your students.
Okay, typically they're 3 to 4 days, depending on how far away the destination is. So if we have a full day of travel, then it's usually going to be 4 days, 4 days and 3 nights. So we have a day for travel on the front end and a day for travel on the back end. But what we always do is we set out early enough so that we arrive at our destination in time for sunset. And then we don't leave on the last day until we've had an opportunity to shoot at sunrise. And the maximum number of people that I have is 10, and it's usually somewhere between 7 and 10. And the reason I do it that way is that I want to be able to work hands-on with the students that are with me and be able to share my experience and suggestions with them at every location. If the group gets too large, then it's not very rewarding either for the student or for me.
Sure. And you mentioned, I know you've traveled the Navajo Nation a lot, and that's been pretty much off limits here, but hopefully that too will come back here soon. You can find Dale Kesel's images at the Mesa Arts Center in the Artist Cooperative Gallery, where you will also find him demoing there periodically. And then to contact Dale Kesel, you can reach him through his website at keselimages.com. Thank you again for sharing your work with us today, Dale.
Thanks, Laurie. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Our featured nonprofit arts organization and upcoming arts events are next. Don't miss them. AZ Creates is sponsored by Sibley's West, the Chandler and Arizona gift shop in historic downtown Chandler. A strong supporter of Arizona creatives, Sibley's West features work from more than 200 artists specializing in Arizona items and souvenirs, including art, pottery, food, jewelry, and much more. Now open at 72 South San Marcos Place in Chandler, online shopping is also available with convenient and safe curbside pickup. Visit www.sibleyswest.com for details. Spring is a great time to be outdoors in Arizona, and we have some new arts events that are coming back in person for you to enjoy. But first, AZ Creates highlights the nonprofit Chandler-Tullamore Sister Cities organization and its Young Artist and Authors Showcase. Youth creatives, photographers, and writers in Chandler ages 13 to 18 can express the mission of Sister Cities International through original artwork and literature. The 2021 theme is United in Hope, and the deadline for two-dimensional art, photography, and writing for Chandler students is Friday, April 23rd. This year's theme is in response to the global COVID-19 pandemic that has affected every country around the world. Hope is a uniting force during this time as people struggle to cope with its ongoing effects and once again start to imagine a life without social distancing or wearing a mask. Students eligible for entry must be Chandler residents. Art and poetry must be in a Word document, and photographs and art are to be scanned at the highest quality. All creations are to be submitted online via the website, and any questions can be directed to chan.2.tull@gmail.com. The mission of the Chandler-Tullamore Sister Cities is to cultivate and maintain a strong relationship between the cities of Chandler, Arizona, and Tullamore, Ireland, to encourage cultural understanding, community involvement, economic development, and educational exchanges. For details on the organization and the showcase, visit chandlerirish.org. Spring has sprung, flowers are blooming, and we're seeing the restoration of more in-person arts events as the pandemic eases here in Arizona and around the state. Cathy Beard is back for you to have something to look forward to.
Thanks, Laurie. As we continue to experience a colorful Arizona spring, it's a great time to go out and about to enjoy what Arizona's talented artists and musicians have to share. From galleries and music to craft shows, festivals, and culture, you're sure to find something unique to listen to, see, and learn about. Take in the beauty of the Red Rocks of Sedona as you travel north to the Oak Creek Arts and Crafts shows at 3 locations. Bell Rock Plaza, April 10 through 11. Sedona Vista Village, April 16 through 18. And Los Rosales West Sedona, April 16 through 18. Local artists will be featured showing their craft in jewelry, paintings, sculpture, pottery, basketry, and leather fashions. For more details, visit oakcreekartsandcraftsshow.com. This spring, celebrate the world's largest rose at the 2021 Rose Festival in Arizona's most famous western town in Tombstone, April 9 through 11. Along with the celebration, see the crowning of this year's Rose Queen, the Tombstone Vigilettes fashion and variety shows, historical and hysterical gunfights, plus mariachi and folklorico performances, art in the park, high tea, and pet parade. Fun for the whole family. For more information, visit tombstonerosetree.com. From metalwork to locally designed fashion, the La Encantada Fine Art Festival, April 9 through 11 in Tucson, is sure to be a visual surprise for all ages. The majestic garden courtyard of La Encantada features the finest artwork in southern Arizona, with jewelry, photography, home decor, metal art, beading, clothing, painting, yard art, and more. For more information, visit saaca.org and click on the Events tab. Spend a relaxing day with the family as you shop through a variety of handmade goods at the Peoria Springs Sweet to the Soul Boutique and Market at the Peoria Sports Complex, April 10 from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Browse through delicately crafted items such as home decor, bath and body products, clothing, and baked goods from local artisans. Admission is $5 and children are admitted free. For more information, go to sweettothesoulboutique.com. Do you love great folk music? Then this event is just for you. The 6th Annual Tucson Folk Festival will be live streamed on Saturday, April 10 from 10:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. Presented by TKMA, Arizona Arts, and Arizona Live. This event features 3 new stages with a fantastic range of folk music with over 75 live performances. Access to the live stream is free. For schedule and performer listings, visit TucsonFolkFest.org. Check out the art of more than 20 Arizona artists and live music with the Shemer Center's Art in the Garden, Saturday, April 10th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Masks are required at all times, and social distancing will be enforced. Admission is free, but attendees need to reserve their timed entry by visiting shemercenter.org/programming/events. For a one-of-a-kind experience celebrating innovation in art, design, and production, check out Design Space, a new drive-through sensory experience, April 9th through the 25th. A mile-long museum in the Packard Drive parking garage structure features this sensory-rich exhibit created by Light Switch, with design installations from industry professionals, renowned structural artists, and ASU's own rising stars from students enrolled in the Herberger Institute for Design and Arts. For tickets and information, visit asugamage.com/designspace. Award-winning jazz singer Alice Tatum and her band will appear at the Herberger Theater Center's Pavilion Stage for an outdoor concert Friday, April 16th at 7:30 p.m. Tatum has performed with greats such as Michael McDonald, Bonnie Raitt, Nancy Wilson, and many others. Appropriate face coverings are required for everyone attending, and the Herberger's COVID-19 protocols are on the website when you purchase tickets at herbergertheater.org. The Art Intersection Gallery of Gilbert presents American City, photographs by John G. Zimmerman, now through April 17. Visitors will experience the amazing imagery of Zimmerman's photojournalistic works that grace the covers and pages of Time, Life, Ebony, and Sports Illustrated magazines, covering the lives and lifestyles of American families, politics, and sports from the 50s through the mid-70s. The gallery is open Wednesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. To learn more, visit artintersection.com. Held in conjunction with Scottsdale's Western Week and Parada del Sol events, the Arizona Indian Festival, April 17 through 18 at the Scottsdale Civic Center Park, provides awareness of Arizona's indigenous communities by creating an inclusive intertribal event celebrating culture, dancing and singing, jewelry, rugs and pottery crafting, and traditional foods. For more information, visit ArizonaIndianTourism.org/AZ Indian Festival. With its irresistible blend of hip, swiveling hits, eye-popping fashions, and outrageous dance moves, Shout! The Mod Musical takes audiences back to the music, style, and freedom of the 1960s, now through Sunday, April 18, at the Arizona Broadway Theater. 5 groovy girls chronicle the dawning liberation of women with songs and hilarious sound bites from the era, redefining themselves in the face of changing attitudes about gender with a shimmy and shake. For more information and tickets, visit azbroadway.org/event/shout. Drawn from the ASU Art Museum's permanent collection, feast your eyes on dinnerware, Friday through Sunday, now through October 9. The objects featured in dinnerware reference communal and symbolic associations with coming together for meals. Featured artists include Pleiades, Eddie Dominguez, Marin Lysohir, Russell Wright, Isaac Scott, Justin Rothshank, and the Democratic Cup Project. For more details and free timed entry tickets, go to asuevents.asu.edu. Enjoy a spring walk through amazing sculptures in the inaugural exhibition of Rough Terrain at Sculpture Tucson, now through July 4th in the Brandy Fenton Memorial Park. 20 sculptures exhibit their unique works in a variety of mediums, from metals to stone, with all sculptures available for sale. Admission is free, and the park is open from 12 to 5 p.m. To learn more, visit sculpturetucson.org. We hope you'll support these talented artists by attending one or more of these events, and be sure to check on their websites for any cancellations or possible rescheduling. Do you know of other events that we can share to our viewers at AZ Creates? Then send us an email at azcreates.artonlineaz@gmail.com and lend us your support at AZ Creates by giving us a like, a share, and a subscribe to our channel, which is something we'll look forward to. See you next time.
Thanks, Cathy, and thanks for all your great work in searching out all these great events. Welcome back. In our What Are You Reading segment, we'd like you to meet Barby Ingle, a best-selling author and motivational speaker on pain topics.
Thanks for being with us today, Barby.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and share with your audience.
I bet you could. Thank you. You are one busy woman, Barby. Now, in addition to writing, you make a lot of public and media appearances. You are president of the nonprofit International Pain Foundation, all while living with some multiple rare and chronic diseases yourself. Tell us a little bit about your health, if you would, and how that led to the foundation and to your books.
I have been on a 20-plus year health journey. It first started with endometriosis, and I got through that and thought I could conquer the world. And little did I know that I actually had a rare medical condition that was triggered by a car accident that I was in. And that happened in 2002. And I progressively got worse. It was very rare. So it took 43 doctors to get a proper diagnosis. That process took 3 years. It took another 4 years to get a treatment that got me up and walking again. And so I spent about 7 years in a wheelchair. And I decided that along with my family and my husband, I wanted to make a difference in this world, and took my focus off of what I had thought was going to be my passion, which was cheerleading, and turned that cheerleading and all the skills I learned from that into helping people through our nonprofit, the International Pain Foundation, where I can mentor other patients. I can talk about the tips, tricks, and tools that I've learned along the way, the hard way, so that other people don't have to go through those same struggles. And that's what I do now.
My goodness, what ordeal you went through. Oh my gosh. So one of your books we're going to talk about here is called From Wheels to Heels, a chronic pain patient's story of hope, help, and understanding. But while the photo of this huge stiletto heel on the cover, heels is spelled H-E-A-L-S. Very clever. So tell us about this book, Barbie.
The book From Wheels to Heels came about because I wanted to share my journey and show other people that although you go through tough times, that they don't have to beat you, they don't have to bring you down. And I cleverly used heels, as in health heels, because I did go from wheelchair to walking. And I used the stiletto because the first pair of shoes, I wasn't able to wear shoes for almost the whole 7 years. And so going from the wheelchair to heels, my first pair of shoes that I bought was a pair of high heels. And I was so proud to be able to see that life accomplishment. But I was more proud that I went through a rare disease, and I'm still living with the rare disease, and I go in and out of remission, but I was able to find the hope and the help that I needed. And I wanted to be able to share that journey with everybody, as well as give them tips, tools, and resources so that they could find their own journey through whatever challenges that they're facing with their health.
And to bring that positiveness that I can tell that you have also to that, and probably a little humor in there, I'm guessing, as well along the way, right? Now,
Absolutely.
you've also written a children's book to help explain about chronic pain to kids, which is just a great idea, because I'm sure a lot of adults don't understand it, let alone children. It's called Aunt Barbie's Invisible Endless Owie. How did this book come to be? And tell us a little bit about the story.
I'm not able to have children of my own, but I have 7 nephews and a niece. And the first older 4, I didn't really have a good relationship with. Not that it's a bad relationship. We just aren't very close. And I wanted to be intentional with the other nieces and nephews that were going to come in the future and teach them about me living with a chronic illness before they were done forming their opinion. All my older nephews know is you can't touch Aunt Barbie. You can't be loud around Aunt Barbie. It's all the rules of all the things you can't do. And as a kid, that's really hard to understand. When I was healthy, when they first met me and were born and growing up, and then all of a sudden Aunt Barbie's sick and they don't know how to interact with me. So with my 3 younger nephews and my niece, I was able to set the expectation, and we are very, very close. And I wanted to be able to share that with other families so that they could set the expectation a little bit quicker and have a great relationship with the people in their life that are of a younger age, so that they can have a meaningful relationship with them.
And that is such an important topic, not only obviously for your own nephews and nieces, but also like for children everywhere. So, Barbie, we would love it if you would read a little segment from Aunt Barbie's Invisible Endless Owie.
Does she still have an owie, I asked? Because she hurt last time she visited, too. She has an invisible endless owie, Mama explained. She hurts every day, and her owie doesn't go away. Do you remember when you scraped your knee? Mama reminded me. It hurt, I remembered. Yes. Do you remember what happened when you bumped the scrape on the table? She asked. It hurt so much more that I cried, I said. Normally, it wouldn't hurt so much to bump your knee, but since you already hurt it, it was much worse. That's how it is with Aunt Barbie on her whole body, Mama explained. Loud noises like toy robots can make her ears hurt more. Bright lights can cause her to hurt more, her eyes to hurt more. And if she were to step on a sharp toy, oh, that would be unbearable. When we get things ready like this, we help her have a better time here because she won't have to worry about her owie, and it will be like taking a break. Can I still play with Aunt Barbie? I wondered. To which Mama replied, it depends on how she's feeling today. Sometimes she won't feel up to playing, but that doesn't mean that she doesn't love you. And it doesn't mean that she doesn't want to play with you. It just means that she can't because she hurts too much. Okay? Okay, I said. Bing bong, she's here. Oops, I mean she's here. I'm so happy to see you, Aunt Barbie tells me.
Oh, sweet. That is so nice. Great job on that. We'll tell people where they can find that book here in just a minute. But now, of course, during the pandemic, we've heard a lot of issues about mental health, but a lot of people haven't maybe been taking care of their physical health either. How has it been with limited doctor appointments, for people like you and others with chronic pain?
There's a lot of challenges that come in a regular time before COVID and before the pandemic. We had trouble getting access to care. Once the pandemic hit, a lot of patients were put on hold, and unless they had COVID, their issues weren't being addressed. And out of that grew telemedicine, telehealth, appointments where patients are now able to visit their doctors through a phone or even through video chat like we are doing here today. So that's one great thing that came out of the pandemic, was having that access to care. But a lot of times patients aren't able to leave their house as often as they'd like, or maybe they schedule an appointment, but they're not able to go. And now they have that option with telehealth that they really didn't have. And of course, there's times where we still need to see a doctor in person. And you have those options that are now coming back online and more open for patients with chronic diseases. But many patients felt so overwhelmed with the pandemic and being locked down, and when everything hit our society and people that were healthy and people that had chronic illnesses, that something had to be done to help that. And out of it was the blessing of telehealth. And I'm excited that we are working to help keep telehealth keep going into the future so that patients can continue to get the treatments and help that they need, because a lot of times, like I said, they don't have the access to get to an actual doctor appointment.
Absolutely. And I do think that is one of the silver linings that will come out of this pandemic, for bringing people together through Zoom meetings, as well as, like you said, the telehealth. For sure. Now, Barbie, I found out that you're also a quilter. How fabulous. Yes. And one of your pieces is behind you on the wall. What got you into quilting?
I actually, when I had endometriosis, I had some time off of work after my hysterectomy. I was a head cheerleading coach, and so I couldn't be as physically active as I wanted to, but I wanted to learn a new skill during that time, and I picked up quilting, and I love it. And I do pieces like the one you see on the wall behind me that I give to family and friends. And I also work with the International Pain Foundation, as you mentioned, and we have a quilt project that patients from all over the world have sent in quilt squares that they get to be creative and design a 12 by 12 square, and they send it to me, and I sew that into quilt panels that are put out at hospitals and doctors' offices to help raise awareness about chronic pain and the challenges and issues that we go through. So it started off to help me get through chronic pain, but it turned into an international project.
And there's just nothing better than a quilt to either wrap yourself in or to put on the wall to look at like that. Absolutely. So you can find out more about Barby Ingle's books at barbyingle.com/books. And for details about the Pain Foundation, visit internationalpain.org. Thank you for all the great work you do, Barby, and thanks for telling us about your books today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Laurie.
You're welcome.
Join us again in 2 weeks when we'll connect you with singer and entertainer Jan Sandwich of Phoenix. She entertains adults with her jazz music and delights children with her cast of characters. In addition, you'll get to know Howard Gershkowitz of Chandler, who has a brand new fiction book out called Not on My Watch. We'll highlight the Nash Jazz Club and music education nonprofit, and we'll have more arts events for you. That's episode 14 on AZ Creates. I do hope spring is bringing a sense of renewal and revitalization for you. The American self-help and spirituality writer Gary Zukav says, "The spring wakes us, nurtures us, and revitalizes us." How often does your spring come? If you are a prisoner of the calendar, it comes once a year. If you are creating authentic power, it comes frequently or very frequently. You have the power to see spring every day, especially when meeting creatives on AZ Creates. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel, tap the bell to be notified of new content and new shows, and share this with those who are looking for something positive to enjoy. We also promote fine art and fine artists on our social media pages at Art Online AZ, where we also promote other arts events. Happy spring to you! But please stay safe and healthy and make it a creative day. See you next time.